and I'm glad she's here. And I want her to feel at home, and I want you to make Marty to feel at home as well, okay?
Thank you very much. And I want you to know I already do feel at home. You all are very, very friendly, and I've just had a good time since I've been here yesterday afternoon. My name is Marti Roberts. It's not Marty Robbins. I'm not going to sing country music to you. And I'm with Macedonia World Baptist Missions, and I'm out of a small church in Abingdon, Virginia. It's called Denton Valley Missionary Baptist Church. Right now, the Lord has me in another church in Tennessee that has a Spanish ministry, and I'm able to, with my home church blessing, to go to that church and to work with that ministry while I'm not traveling for deputation. So the Lord has really worked in my life, and there's a picture back there that says, "Who, me, a missionary?" And I want you to know that's exactly the way I felt when the Lord first started calling me into missions. You know, most people, as the pastor was saying, most people think of a missionary as a man with a wife and a bunch of kids, and you know, just young. That's not me either. But you know, the Lord can use anybody, and I'm living proof of that. I was saved when I was 8 years old, and I was blessed to have been brought up in a home where my parents did take me to church. And the night that I got saved, I did not know when I walked in the door that I was a sinner. I've been in church all my life, but I didn't know what a sinner was. In fact, the pastor asked, you know, who do you think a sinner is? And my little 8-year-old mind was thinking, you know, it's people that murder, it's people that rob banks, it's people that do really, really bad things. But the more he talked, the more the Holy Spirit worked on me, got into my heart, and showed me that I was a sinner. And before that service was over, I was scared to death that I was going to go to hell. And you know, at 8 years old, you would think that a child couldn't feel that, but I did. And I've seen it so many times. Children can feel conviction. I did have a fight to get myself to go to the altar that night to pray. It was like God was on one side and the devil was on the other. The devil telling me, you're young, you couldn't have done anything bad enough. But God calling me from the other side. And I reached up to my mom and asked her, I said, you know, I really think I need to go up there. She went with me, and a sweet lady knelt down and prayed with me, showed me the Romans Road in the Bible. And I got up and I knew I was okay. And I'd like to tell you that from that moment on, I worked for the Lord. I did what He asked me to do, but I can't tell you that. I did get out of church. I was about 14 years old, and I stopped going. There was nothing my parents could do to get me to go. I was a stubborn child, and I had a younger sister, and Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, Sunday nights were a fight. And my mom finally just had to let it go. And she stopped asking me to go, stopped getting me up in the mornings, but she didn't ever stop praying for me. Neither did my dad, and neither did the people of the church. But it still took about 15 years for me to go back. And the Lord used my nephew at that point. He was 5 years old at the time, and they were getting him ready to go to church one day. And he looked at me and he said, well, now if Marty don't go to church, then why do I have to?
Yeah, there you go.
And I want you to know that cut to the heart. And the Lord used that. He used that the whole next week. I heard that voice while I was working, while I was trying to sleep. I couldn't sleep. And so the next Sunday I got back into church. And it was about 3 months after that the Lord started calling me. I started feeling something. And finally understood during the revival service what it was that the Lord was trying to tell me, and what He'd been trying to tell me that my whole Christian life. I wasn't saved just to sit down and wait for the Lord to come and wait to die and go to heaven. I was saved for a purpose.
Right.
You know, Romans 12:1 says, present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And that night it was like I'd heard that verse for the very first time. And I figured out that my reasonable service was to give my body and my life to the Lord. And so I knelt down, and I think it's just great that I was able to kneel in the very same place I knelt when I was saved, when I was 8 years old. And I remember telling the Lord, if there's anything I can do, Lord, if there is any way you can use me, my life is yours. And when you tell the Lord that, He starts using you. In fact, the very next night, someone came up to me and asked me to write the Christmas play for that year. I was like, yeah, right. In fact, I started almost to say no, but the Lord brought to my mind what I had said the night before, so I said, I'll try. And I went home that night and I prayed hard. I said, Lord, you know I can't write anything, but He gave me the words. He gave me the ability to write that Christmas play, and I did so for 5 years after that. I was blessed to be able to teach the youth class on Sunday nights. I was blessed to be able to teach the ladies class on Sunday mornings. And the Lord just kept using me, and I thought that I was there for good. I thought I had found my place where the Lord wanted me, and I got comfortable, and I got happy, and then He turned the tables on me again. I worked in a bank at that time, and I began seeing a lot of Spanish workers come through the bank, and they had a big problem, communicating. And I know people think when they come to this country they need to learn the language, and yeah, they do, I agree. But to make things easier for me and for them both, I began to have this real desire to learn Spanish. And I thought it was just for my job. And anybody who knew me would tell you that I never stuck to anything when I was younger. So even myself, when I started trying to learn Spanish, I was like, this won't last. Well, I couldn't put it down. The Lord would not let me put it down. He would not get it out of my mind, let me put it out of my mind to stop learning Spanish. And I couldn't figure out what in the world. I was like, all I want to know is how to ask them if they want their check cashed. That's all I want to know, but I kept learning. And then He put a missionary couple in my life. They are missionaries to Venezuela. Now, pray for them, by the way. That's a very, very volatile place right now. They were on furlough, and I got to know them. And it was through them that the Lord showed me that missionaries are just plain people. I used to hold missionaries to a very high standard. I put them on a pedestal. I think they were super Christians who would never say no to the Lord, who would never have a doubt, who would never have a fear. But that's not the way it is. Missionaries are plain people, and I'm about as plain as you can get. I do have my fears. I do have my doubts. I did in the beginning. I doubted whether I was actually understanding what the Lord was asking me to do, because I thought there's nothing for a woman to do on the mission field. I thought, just like a lot of pastors that I've come across and a lot of people in churches, I thought that there's nothing the Lord can do through a single lady on the mission field. And there was just so many times that I would feel such an urge to just say, okay, Lord, I'll go, whatever you want me to do. But I kept giving Him excuse after excuse. I gave my age. I'm not the youngest person in the world. I'm not the youngest person in this room. I thought, this is very, very late in life to be starting on something like this. I have parents who are not in good health. I have a sister who right now is battling cancer. My nephew has diabetes. He's been in the hospital about 6 times here in the last 6 months. And I kept telling the Lord at that point, I was like, I can't leave them. And He told me, if you go in my will, then I'll take care of them a whole lot better than you can if you stay out of my will. And so when I finally gave it up and I said, Lord, I don't know what it is you're asking me to do, because I had no idea. I said, but I gave my life to you once before. I'm going to have to do it again, Lord, because I can't handle this. I can't be like feeling this. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. And the Lord just kept calling and calling and calling. And I don't know how anybody can turn away from the Lord and not do what He asked, because He would not let it go with me. But, when you look at me, I want you to see what the Lord can do through you. I see myself still as the shy child who would not look at anybody when they talked to her. There is no way in the world I could have gotten up and spoken to anyone in church. I would not get up and sing. My little sister did. I wouldn't do the church plays. I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't recite Bible verses. In school, I took failing grades rather than give a report. And if you'd have told me that at this point in my life I would be up here talking to you and being able to look at you, I'd have said just crazy, because I couldn't do it. But it's not me. It's the Lord. He has put such a love in my heart for Him first, but for the people of Honduras, that I have to do this. I have to be up, and I have to try to get to Honduras. He's blessed me with trip after trip. I've been able to go 6 times. And I'll be honest with you, the first time I went, Honduras had never crossed my mind as to where He was going to send me. But it was like I got off the plane that first moment. And He's like, you're home. This is where I want you to be. And I walked through the airport, and it was my first trip, my first airplane ride, my first trip out of the country. And I walked through the airport, And I remember Beth saying, she would walk through the streets and she would see people and think, these people are in darkness. They don't know the truth. That's exactly the way I felt. We were there for 9 days, and as we were leaving, the moment I got through security and realized that I could not go back, my heart broke. I sat and I cried until we got on the plane. We had a little 10-year-old with us on that trip, and he kept coming up to me and goes, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know." I have no idea what's wrong with me. But it was the Lord. He had broken my heart for the people of Honduras. And Honduras is, it's a small country, and I can't say that Honduras is not evangelized. There are a lot of missionaries in Honduras. But I don't know if my DVD is going to work, but in the DVD, I tell you that only 3% are Protestants. 97% is Catholic. That is what's ingrained in the people. But of that 3% that's Protestant, you have people who are teaching lies. There is just a very, very small percent that's bringing the true gospel. And the little town that I'm going to be working in when I work with the Ralstons, we're the only Baptist church in a very big area. And so, they have a lot of churches. They have a Pentecostal church. They have a Seventh-day Adventist church. They have several Catholic churches in just a tiny little area. But the only true light is that Baptist church. And the work is about a year old. And when I go down, I've been blessed to be able to learn the Spanish language. How? Don't ask me. I have no idea, because I think I was telling Mary Lou yesterday, when I was in school, nothing would stick in my head. I was not a good learner. But the Lord has allowed me to work. I use Rosetta Stone. I listen to Spanish at night. It plays constantly. I listen to it in my car. I have people who, like the pastor of the Spanish church that I'm at, he's helping me. The ladies in the church are helping me. So the Lord has just given me such a bunch of people who will help me and who have helped me. When I go down, I'm not going to have to go to language school. What I'll probably do is work with a tutor for about 6 weeks. In fact, we already have her almost under contract. We just have to wait until we know exactly when I'm going down. She's already agreed to teach me. She said I could come to her house, she would go to my house, whatever I wanted to do, she would work with me. So, about 6 weeks and I should be able to take off pretty well. I noticed even after the short trips, by the end of the week, I'm okay. I'm able to communicate. When I go down, I will be working with a missionary couple, a church planting couple. I'll be working out of their church, and right now, she is the only one, Mrs. Ralston is the only one who is teaching Sunday school. So what we're going to do when I get down is we're going to split up the Sunday school classes. She's teaching from 2 years old up to 10 years old. If anybody works with children, you know that with that age group, if you talk to where the 2-year-olds are going to pay attention and understand what you're saying, the 10-year-olds are going to be bored. If you talk to the 10-year-olds, the 2-year-olds are not going to understand. So what we're going to do is we're going to split up that class, and she's actually going to be able to add 11 and 12-year-olds into Sunday school. I'll take the younger ones, and I'll teach them while she's teaching the older ones. I also have an opportunity with 2 different places, a children's home and a daycare in a larger town right outside of Santa Rita, and I will be teaching Bible classes there. And Beth was talking about using English, teaching English to gather the people, to get their trust. In Honduras, it's a lot different than it is where Beth is. We can go into the schools and teach, and we can take our own curriculum, and our curriculum is the Bible. So, it's just, there's so many opportunities in Honduras. It's a very, very open place. It's something that, I was asked a while ago, how am I received? It's almost like the difference they see in me, in my skin color, my blue eyes, my light-colored hair. It draws them to me, especially the children. And that's who I have the burden for. I want to reach the children. Not only will I be doing what I've said before, but I'm going to actually be going out into the little outlying areas, the places that don't have a church, the ones that are too far away for the kids to get to church. And I'll be doing a Bible club with those children. And once you reach the children, you've got the parents. Once you show those parents how much you love the children, and that you care for them and for what happens to them, then you're going to have an open door with those parents. And in Honduras, there's a lot of single mothers. The fathers, let's just say that the Latino culture is a little different. Men feel like they're more man the more children they have, the more women that they know. And so, it's like they have these children, but they're nowhere around. They just leave. They don't care. And the women are left with the children, and they're in such awful conditions. I would love to be able to take them all and bring them all here, but it's not what they need. What they need is the Lord. And I believe that the Lord is going to make my ministry to be to the children and to the women. And, I'm really anxious to get down there. I've got about 70 to 72% of my support. I really would love to be down by the end of this year, but I've got to let the Lord work in His time. If I'd had my choice, I would not have come back the first time. I wouldn't. But at that point, I didn't even have a mission board. Hadn't told many people that I had been called to be a missionary. So, I had to come back. I had to find a mission board. Macedonia is a wonderful mission board. They're just super great. My field director is someone that, he puts up with me. I have a lot of questions. I've always had a lot of questions, and he helps me with my Spanish, and he's just the person that I needed, and the Lord knew that. Once I got with the mission board, I went back to work. That day, I told him what was happening. I said, I've got to have a couple of weeks off for orientation. They told me no. And so I had to make a decision at that point. I had to decide whether I was going to do what the Lord wanted me to do, what He was pointing me towards, what He had already started me on, or was I going to live comfortably? Was I going to keep doing what I was doing? And I went home and I prayed and I cried. You don't know what you're going to do. But pretty soon the answer came to me, and I knew what I had to do. So I went in, I gave my 2-week notice. I told them that, I couldn't work there anymore because there was just too much of a conflict. And the Lord is taking care of me. I went from making pretty good money to making nothing. I didn't have any support at that time. But I've never, ever had a need that the Lord has not met. I've never been hungry. I've never needed gas that I didn't have it to get to a meeting. And the Lord just amazes me in how He does things. There's been times that He has provided the need before I knew I needed it. And there's been times that He's waited till the last second. But it's always been there. I'll never forget the first trip. I went to New York twice. And the first trip, it was Sunday morning. I was right to church. And I was to leave that Monday, the next day. I had no money for gas. I had no money for a motel room. I had no money to eat. And I was praying as I was going home. I was like, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do. If you want me to go on this trip, then, you're just going to have to provide it because I don't have it. And I was at a church, a little small country church that night, presenting the work. And, the human part of me was like, well, this is a small church. There's not many people here, So I didn't have a whole lot of hope that the Lord was going to provide that way. But as I was leaving, or as they were leaving, I was standing back in the back talking to the pastor. Everyone who left shook my hand, and when I took my hand away, there was money in my hand. That little, tiny country church, those few people, provided the money I needed to get the gas I needed to go to New York, to get a hotel room because I took 2 days to drive it, to eat. The next church, the first church that I got there, they provided the rest. And, it amazes me what God will do for you. It amazes me how much He loves us. And what amazes me even more is that He wants to use us. And there were so many years that I stood back and I didn't go to church. I didn't do what the Lord wanted me to. And when I think on those years, and I think of how many people the Lord put in my path, how many people I could have influenced for Him, and I didn't. They couldn't see a difference in me. I didn't go to church. I didn't, I always had the Lord in my heart. I never did anything really bad, but I didn't do anything good either. I didn't do anything for them to see a difference. And I think about the people that that I was working with at that point, so many of them have so many problems. Some of them are dead. What could I have done if I had just answered the call earlier? And that's why now I guess there's such a burden, because I know there's people in Honduras today that are going to die and they're not going to have anyone who's told them about Jesus. And it's like that all over the world. It's like that here, right in this little community. You know, you just never know when your last chance is going to be. Sorry. But you never know when the person you pass and the Lord asks you to speak to, you never know if they are going to have another chance to hear the gospel. You never know if you're going to have another chance to share with them, to share with anyone. And it's I regret the 15 years that I was out of church and out of the Lord's will. But the Bible tells us not to look back. He's forgiven us. We need to look ahead. We need to look to today. And so that's my prayer, that I will always keep in mind what the Lord wants me to do. Keep in mind that I gave Him my body as a living sacrifice. Keep in mind that He puts me in contact with the people that He wants me to talk to. You know, we all have a different personality. We all have a different set of friends. We all have a different path to walk. But God knows who we are. He knows where we're going. And He puts people in that path for us to talk to. And I pray that I'll never, ever take an opportunity or miss an opportunity to share the gospel again. And I pray that through my pain of listening, of thinking about over those years, that I can encourage all of you to not let a day go by when you don't do what the Lord asked you to do. Right. If you're not saved, you know, don't let a moment pass when God gives you an opportunity. You've got to take it no matter what it is, from the moment you're saved on through the rest of your life. He has your life planned out. He has my life planned out. He knows exactly when I'm going to be in Honduras. And I don't have to worry about it, you know. I just have to do what He tells me to do today. And I really appreciate churches like yours that gives me the opportunity to do that. You know, just ask that you do pray for me. Help me to pray that I'll be able to always do what He asks me to do. Pray for safety as I travel. I do travel alone. That doesn't bother me. You know, a lot of women say, you know, I couldn't do that. I couldn't travel alone. But I'm not traveling alone. I've got God with me. I've never been frightened of anything, never been scared. I've never had car trouble. Watch me not get home today because I have car trouble. But you know, God just takes care of you. When you put your life in His hands, and when you say, "Here, my Lord, send me," He's going to walk with you the whole way. But do just pray for safety for me. Pray that I'll be able to get some more meetings. Pray that I'll get to Honduras, but not until it's His time for me to go. And pray that I'll be a blessing wherever I am.